Most of us have enjoyed this show throughout for the way it balances drama and action, and to top it all off, it's jam-packed with the most exciting conflicts. The violence we see among the rival clubs in Sons of Anarchy simply keeps us hooked to our screens. But that's not all. One episode got so graphic that it got the entire show in trouble. So let's find out what the issue was. First off, this Season 7 episode blew up for all the wrong reasons. The opening scene of the 10th episode, Faith and Despondency, was called out by many angry parents, to the point that it got called out by the Parents Television Council. What caused the commotion was a 2.5-minute long sequence that showed the members of the Sam Crow engaged in sexual activities with their partners. We all know that this wasn't the first time that the show displayed the characters in nudity, and it certainly wasn't the show's first love scene, but that didn't stop the PTC from branding it as pornography. In a statement from the PTC's president, Tim, the scene was described as the most sexually explicit material they'd ever seen on a TV channel, and that this is the kind of content that's normally found on exclusive and premium subscription networks like Showtime or HBO. They even went on to say that they anticipated that other basic cable channels would air similar or more explicit material to stay competitive, which is something they definitely wouldn't want. So the issue is based on the fact that kids have access to the cable networks on which the show displayed nudity, which most people don't really like, and we understand why. In the end, Tim also reiterated that parents shouldn't be forced to put up with pornographic material, and they'd be able to choose what networks they want to see in their houses, which is entirely backed by their call on the government departments to let people purchase only the networks they like. Coming up, the other graphic scenes that managed to slip through. It probably was a relief for the team behind the show when the PTC ended up not commenting on the show's gory fatalities, or Jax cutting out someone's eye in the same episode. This was a close one. Anybody with eyes can tell that Sons of Anarchy is not meant to be watched by children, nor did it invite a younger crowd to watch it, making the PTC's objections seem out of place. We mean, the theme of the entire show itself is too rough and violent for kids to be near it, and if they ended up getting exposed to some of the most violent sequences in the show, it's not Sutter's or the network's fault, but that of the parents who didn't supervise the kids well enough. Many other shows depict such violent themes and behaviors, and they do come under scrutiny too. But being on basic cable means that the show gets viewed by a wide range of audiences. We understand how it'd be hard to keep the kids outside when a family watches TV, but it's still not the show's fault. In many ways, objections such as this can hold creators back in terms of their freedom to make the kinds of projects they want, and this is super sad to think about. Sons of Anarchy has its unique qualities, and implying that it'd be censored would probably defeat the point. Finally, they really know how to get themselves into trouble. The PTC has previously slammed the show for showing a school shooting sequence, to which Sutter responded on behalf of the program, and the committee responded with a long post to that. And that's not all, because there have been many other instances when the show was confronted from the material it had on screens. The other moments on the show that may have put it in trouble include the time when Tig's daughter was burned alive and the gory deaths of Opie Winston and Jack's wife Tara. If these things don't seem bad enough to you, how about the scene where Juice was being raped in prison, which was pretty extreme and disturbing even for mature audiences? Still, there were no objections to any of this, which surprised us. It also made us see how, in most circumstances, people who are super against sex and nudity being displayed on TV are often okay with displays of violence and terror on the same screens, which is a clear bias in the minds of the audiences. In the end, and opposite to what the PTC said, Sons of Anarchy managed to have a large audience and garnered a lot of appreciation for its primary cast performances and the subjects it covered. Criticism about its violent sequences didn't affect the show, but it only enhanced the themes it was already trying to portray, making them hit home harder than they would have otherwise. Now, moving on to some of the other surprising moments from the show. To start, Bobby lost his eye. Well, we all know that being part of an outlawed biker gang is some pretty deadly business, and the show has never been afraid to punish its key cast members in the most brutal ways possible. We're not complaining because that's what adds the complexity and the chaos in it. But a few of the members appeared to be safe until the final episode, and Bobby was one of them. It almost seemed like nothing could harm this man, but when the brutal August Marks kidnapped him in episode 7 of season 7, we all expected that the club would ensure he was returned whole, but our hopes were all dashed when Marks mailed them a package containing Bobby's gouged out eye, and it was simply too late to do anything. Now, this was a sight that lighthearted people couldn't deal with, and we couldn't believe that it was real. And if that wasn't enough of a shocker, that initial gift was later joined by a box full of fingers, and the character soon died at Mark's hands. But the first delivery was probably the most terrifying thing we'd ever seen on television. Following up, the moment when Jax punished punished Wendy. When he put on his most serious voice and stared directly into the camera, his large blue eyes calm and focused, you'd almost always tell that he was attempting to steer the gang in a much better direction. Wasn't he just a wonderful guy dealing with some challenging circumstances? One might feel like they've been deceived, but this man who is determined to keep his gang focused isn't all that good in other departments of his life, particularly his life at home. We say that because he assaulted his ex-wife and forced her to violate months of hard-earned sobriety by punching a syringe into her arm. Now that's pretty brutal for someone who's supposed to be the nice guy. What's worse is that there was no genuine reason for what he did. Sure, he might say that he did it to protect his children, but come on, we all know that'd be a lazy cover-up. All he wanted was to hurt someone, so he chose one of his most vulnerable contacts and chose the cruelest manner he'd think of to hurt her. The show's ultimate conflict, which makes us wonder whether Jax could be a greater man than his dad, was resolved here. He could have proven to be better by either making the club improve or getting out of it, but this was the exact moment from episode 12 of season 5 when it became crystal clear to us that this character couldn't be saved. Moving on, Kyle got his tattoos taken off. If you'd want to create a starter pack for the Sons who are fully patched in, you'd have to add at least one tattoo, a collection of Reaper Crew shirts, and we can't forget the leather cut. And because you're intending to remain a member throughout your life, the tattoo shouldn't become a problem for you at any point. But sometimes people leave or are asked to leave, and in those cases, the tattoos are supposed to be erased or blacked out. While Kyle, who was a former Son, showed up to a club cookout and admitted he still had his tattoo, he was given two choices, whether he wanted to use fire or knife to get rid of it. He opted for fire, after which Tig used a blowtorch to remove his tattoo. Given that this occurred only 5 episodes into the first season, it was yet another strong intention statement because it made us see exactly what the show was going to be like. Now, every moment we see Charlie Hunnam's shirtless back imprinted with that massive Reaper tattoo, we remember this scene and how tough it is to escape the MC without some pretty lasting scars. Finally, Opie got killed pretty brutally. Opie's death was among the most pivotal moments for Jax and the entire club, and obviously yet another example of the show taking out important characters when necessary. Because the show is based on his story, there are many other characters whose paths match his and function nearly as otherworldly Jax. Opie, like him, was born to a son, and just like him, he battled with the demands the club life had. Donna, who was Opie's wife, wanted him to quit, and he nearly did, but she was murdered, and it was a pretty sad scene. But everything went wrong from there on, as expected. Not just that, but when a number of the Sons ended up in prison, Opie met a pretty unforgettable end himself. Damon Pope demanded more blood in retaliation for his daughter's death, and it was up to this guy to take the fall. We all could feel how a super crucial moment was happening right in front of our eyes because Opie was one of the show's few remaining voices of reason, and Jax was simply powerless to save him. From the other room, all he can do is witness and scream as his best friend's head was smashed in. Yeah, we know it was pretty bad. And that's a wrap, folks. What do you guys think is the most controversial scene from Sons of Anarchy? Tell us in the comments below. And as always, make sure to click that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more updates on your favorite movies and shows. And we'll see you in the next one.
The M4s.
Gone. As are most of the Glocks.
Baby.
We had to do an emergency C-section. He's 10 weeks.
Let me know when you need me.
Yes, a few new kids breaking in. Same extreme hate.